I was just a nobody in the last row. Then the plane malfunctioned, revealing my true bravery. I will never forget that day. It started like any other. The hum of the engines, the chatter of excited passengers, the smell of cheap coffee and stale peanuts. I sat there, squashed between an elderly woman who wouldn't stop talking about her grandkids and a nervous young man sweating bullets. My heart raced with the usual pre-flight anxiety, but nothing prepared me for what was coming. The moment we took off, everything felt strangely alive. The sun poured through the small window, painting the cabin in a warm glow. I could see the world swirling beneath us, fields, rivers, tiny towns like children's toys. Then it hit. A sudden jolt. The plane shuddered violently, scraping against the clouds like a petulant child. Silence engulfed us. A heavy, suffocating silence. People held their breath. My pulse thundered in my ears. I looked to my left. The man beside me was grabbing his armrests, knuckles white. The elderly woman had stopped talking, her mouth agape in shock. I wanted to scream, to cry, but my throat felt tight. The air was thick with fear. Every heartbeat echoed in the tense confines of the aircraft. Suddenly, over the intercom, a voice crackled, strained yet authoritative. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Please remain calm." Those words felt like a lead weight in my chest. Calming? What kind of calming could we expect? I gripped the armrest, my fingers trembling. I could taste metal and panicked. As the plane dropped again, I felt a surge of energy and instinct push through me. I was nobody, just a passenger, but right then, I could feel the weight of every life on that machine pressing down on my shoulders. I instinctively turned to the woman beside me, giving her what I hoped was a reassuring smile. "We'll be okay," I said, my voice shaky yet determined. But as her eyes widened, reflecting pure terror, I realized I was trying to convince myself more than her. The plane dipped, and a scream erupted from the back. A horrifying wail cut through the air. Some passengers wept. Others gripped their loved ones. I glimpsed a father holding a child, tears streaming down his face. That sight burned deep within me, igniting a fire I didn't know I had. Should I stand? Should I scream for help? I took a deep breath, the air in the cabin feeling thin, almost as if it knew our fate. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs like a wild bird trapped in a cage. Then, I acted. I stood up, swaying slightly as the plane lurched. I could feel eyes on me. A jolt of fear, a spark of bravery. "Listen!" I shouted. "We need to work together. Buckle your belts. Brace yourselves." My voice rang out, cutting through the panic. I didn't know where that courage came from. I had never been the one to step forward before. But somehow, I felt a strange clarity, a call into the storm. As I moved down the aisle, my body screamed for safety, but my mind pushed me on. I felt the stares of others, curious, hesitant. Suddenly, the plane lurched violently, and a wave of gasps washed over us. What if this was the end? What if I couldn't be brave enough? Each uncertain face haunted me, urging me to fight against the tide of chaos. The plane roared as alarms blared, drowning out all reason. My heart sank as I saw the flight attendants' frantic movements. The cabin lights flickered ominously. And just when I was about to reach the cockpit, something went wrong, a metal screeching that split open the silence like a knife. I was flung backward, landing hard against the seats, the breath knocked out of me. This wasn't over. I could barely process the shock, yet I knew something had changed inside me. A relentless whirling of adrenaline and fear swirled within me like an unholy cyclone. Would I be brave enough to face what was coming? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I awoke to chaos. The cabin was a cacophony of muffled cries and rattling metal, a nightmarish symphony that filled my ears like 1,000 desperate souls pleading for relief. My body ached as I tried to sit up, a thin layer of fear wrapping around me like a suffocating cloak. Panic gripped my heart as I registered the scene before me, seatbelts unbuckled, bags strewn about, and faces twisted in terror. Are you okay? A soft voice broke through the din. It was the elderly woman. Her eyes mirrored my own panic, but behind them lay something stronger, courage flickering like a dying candle. I nodded, reassuring her while my own heart thudded violently. Suddenly, the plane lurched again, as if caught in the grip of an unseen hand. The flight attendants struggled to maintain their composure, moving deftly among the aisles despite the overwhelming chaos. I couldn't help but admire their professionalism as I tried to pick myself off the shattered floor, a sense of urgency rising within me. Help me! A voice rang out to my left, desperate and trembling. I turned to see the young man who had been sweating bullets beside me now clutching his head, eyes wide with panic. For a moment, my own fears vanished, overshadowed by his need. I bounded toward him, grabbing his shoulders. Hey, look at me! Breathe, I commanded, my voice more confident than I felt. In out, just focus. He nodded, as if my words alone were granting him a semblance of control. The mere act of uplifting him clothed me with a sense of purpose, like a mantle I hadn't realized I was ready to wear. As I helped him to the main aisle, I couldn't help but feel unsteady myself. My own heart still raced, but there was something about the young man's breath slowing that steadied my own. We need to make sure everyone's okay, I said, the words spilling from my lips as though some instinct deep within was guiding me. Maybe this was who I was beneath the layers of self-doubt. As we moved down the aisle together, voices buzzing with fear and uncertainty, I felt a wave of anticipation rise, an unprecedented surge of hope igniting a flame in the pit of my stomach. Then, I caught sight of the father with his child, still clutching the little one protectively. Is she all right? I asked, kneeling beside him. The child looked pale but miraculously unhurt. Relief flooded the father's features momentarily, before agony overtook him again. I can't lose her, he whispered, his voice cracking like glass. She's all I have. An unexpected softness enveloped me, a kinship born in that moment of vulnerability, knowing that whatever fear I faced, others were facing more. You won't lose her, I promised, taking the little girl's hand, feeling her tiny fingers tremble. Let us be strong together. The cabin shook once more, and this time the lights flickered ominously, plunging us into a semi-darkness that encased the panic like a shroud. The father's eyes darted, but he held my gaze as I glanced back at him, offering silent strength. A connection forged in fear that I glanced back toward the front of the plane, where the cockpit lay hidden behind a complicated array of chaos. But every soul in here mattered, and I felt a fierce protectiveness swell within me, igniting that fire again. A part of me added a new urgency, pushing past the horrors unfolding before us. Everyone. We need to work together. Check on each other, help whoever you can. The sounds of acknowledging murmurs spread through rows of terrified faces, and in that moment, I caught a glimpse of humanity rising from the ashes of despair. People moving, reaching out, offering old men a hand and gathering scattered belongings, but as beautifully gripping as that connection was, the aircraft roared angrily against the storm. The unmistakable sound of metal tearing filled the air, yanking me back to reality as a nearby window shuddered dangerously, a shocking crack splintering through glass. I felt my stomach drop. A ghastly chill slid along my spine, a hollow ache spreading through me as I witnessed the implosion of faith. Each face turned, eyes wide with horror as the crack widened, sharp and foreboding, and then it burst open. A rush of wind filled the cabin, a manic howl that drowned out our screams, the icy air wrapping around us like a merciless fist. Breathe! I shouted, but my own voice was lost in the chaos as I fought against the tearing currents that swept through, threatening to yank us all from our seats. In that moment, as I struggled against it, a profound realization struck me with crystalline clarity. Bravery wasn't the absence of fear, it was the audacity to face it head-on. But before I could gather my thoughts or anyone else's, a shattering revelation pierced through the chaos, ripping apart the fragile sense of hope we had managed to salvage. A voice, blaring through the intercom, rang clear and cold, "Mayday. We need immediate assistance. We are losing cabin pressure. Prepare for emergency landing." Time seemed to freeze as we exchanged glances, and all I could think was that we were on the edge of the abyss, and this was only the beginning. The cabin groaned as the mechanical voice faded, leaving behind an eerie stillness that wrapped around us like a thick fog. My heart beat erratically, and for a moment, it felt as if time had come to a standstill. Faces were painted with a blend of fear and disbelief. A feeling of inevitability hung in the air, as if we were all trapped within a dark narrative none of us had chosen. "Everyone, listen!" I shouted, my voice rising above the quiet panic. "We need to stay calm and work together. I've read about emergency procedures. Let's not give in to despair." The words felt clumsy in my mouth, but as I glanced around, I saw a flicker of determination igniting in several eyes. The elderly woman nudged a nearby passenger who had fallen into a trance of fear, whispering encouraging words that reminded me of my grandmother. I could see that she was clutching a rosary, her hands shaking, and instinctively I reached out to her. "You're strong. Hold on to that," I encouraged, and with surprising gentleness, she took my hand, her grip firming as our strength intertwined. The father beside me had almost dropped his daughter in the chaotic rush for security, but now he cradled her against his chest as if trying to shield her from the horrors surrounding us. I met his gaze once more, and in that brief second of connection, I silently vowed to protect them both. "We're going to be all right. Stick together," I said fiercely, though I felt the growing weight of uncertainty clawing at my chest. The plane dipped violently again, and I braced myself against the seat. The little girl whimpered softly, squeezing her father's hand as he whispered reassurances to her, his voice trembling. I glanced around the cabin, my eyes landing on a young woman with tears streaming down her face. She seemed lost, a palpable fear surging around her. "Do you need help?" I called, and upon her nod, I rushed toward her. "Hey, look at me, please. I need you to breathe with me, all right?" I demonstrated, slowing my breath to give her something to latch onto. She followed suit, slowly regaining a grip on her emotions. As she calmed, I noticed her eyes flitting over the cabin, assessing the situation. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice still shaky but steadier than before. And in that stray acknowledgement of kindness, I found a small pocket of solace, an ember glowing in the shadow of despair. As we turned our collective focus back to the looming task ahead, a strange solidarity blossomed within the vessel. The passengers formed groups, creating makeshift circles of support, eyes darting among one another and making subtle gestures of reassurance. I exulted in the unexpected camaraderie, feeling almost buoyed by this shared sense of collective fate. "Let us find the nearest exits," I encouraged. "If we make it through this, we might need a plan." The father nodded, his determination rekindled, as did others nearby. But just as hope surged, another wave of turbulence rocked us, the cabin groaning in protest. "Brace for impact," came the frantic voice of a flight attendant from the front of the cabin, cutting through the tense atmosphere like a knife. The urgency in her tone washed over me, and I instinctively turned back toward the flight's tail, my instincts leveling with fear. Would any of us survive this plunge? Glimmers of bravery coursed through my veins, each pulse reminding me that strength could manifest in moments of profound uncertainty. "Get down!" I shouted as I dropped to the floor, my heart racing. The group around me followed suit, and I watched as a surge of solidarity spiraled through the cabin. Young and old alike, we bowed our heads, pressing close together like frightened birds sheltering from a storm. The din of the engines roared and fluctuated, sunken in a horrifying rhythm that echoed fear and confusion. I glanced at the little girl, whose small frame trembled underneath her father's hand. Our eyes locked, and in that moment, I promised us all that I wouldn't let fear win. Then, suddenly, the lights flickered again, and chaos split through the cabin with a ferocity unlike anything I had ever experienced, a thunderous crack reverberating through the very fabric of our shared experience. From the darkness emerged the intercom's voice once more, a ghostly presence now surging with urgency. Prepare to evacuate. Brace for emergency landing procedures. And then the plane tilted ominously, the sound of metal protesting against the strain. I felt a soul-wrenching fear, and as we braced for the unknown, reality shattered again, unveiling not just our impending demise, but the revelation of another truth buried deep within me. I was just a nobody in the last row. I was the heartbeat of hope, facing the abyss in defiance, but just as I was about to grasp this newfound identity, a startling cracking sound beneath our feet reverberated through the metal floor. I glanced down to see a dark stream of smoke curling upward, an ominous omen that sent a wave of dread washing over my soul. Get ready, I murmured to the passengers huddled around, as realization gripped me. The tightness in my chest morphed into a brand new terror. The imminent plunge into the dark depths wasn't the end of this journey, it was only the beginning of a fight for survival that awaited us all. The smell of smoke enveloped us like a suffocating blanket, mingling with the terrified gasps of the passengers and the drone of the engine straining under pressure. My heart raced as I struggled to suppress the rising panic twisting in my gut. Everyone, stay together. We're going to make it through this. I shouted again, my voice above a whisper, clinging to the belief that we could survive this together. The flight attendant, fraught with fear yet fierce in her resolve, began directing everyone toward the emergency exits, her commands a lifeline amid the chaos. Stay low, move quickly, and listen to one another. I caught a glimpse of her, her eyes wide, radiating a bravery I desperately wanted to match. Suddenly, I didn't just see her as a stranger, she stood as an embodiment of our hope, illustrating that even in the face of catastrophe, strength could emerge in unexpected forms. Grab the little girl. I called to the father, who clutched his daughter protectively, fear evident in his eyes. But just as he nodded, ready to act, a piercing shriek splintered through the cabin. The sound etched itself into my mind, the sound of metal twisting and warping. My heart sank. Run! The words tumbled from my lips without thought as I moved instinctively, pulling the father and his daughter behind me. The elderly woman stumbled as we made our way down the narrow aisle, her grip on my arm firm yet trembling. Just as I turned back to help her, the plane lurched violently, sending waves of chaos through our makeshift group. Stay close! I yelled, looking over my shoulder. The sight of other passengers, frozen in fear or screaming in panic, sent a fresh wave of desperation through me. The plane felt alive, throbbing with a violent intensity, the whole world narrowing to this moment of collective struggle. I grabbed the elderly woman's other hand, leading her alongside me as we maneuvered through a sea of fear. The little girl whimpered, hidden against her father's chest, her small hands clenching tightly. It's okay, sweetie. We're almost there. He soothed, though his voice trembled, and I could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Hold on. We're all going to get out of here. Another tremor jolted through the cabin, and I felt like time slowed, memories flashing before me as if the universe was urging me to consider everything I had ever taken for granted: the quiet moments of laughter, the sunsets witnessed, the simple joy of being alive. In this instant, the realization crashed in with weight: life was fragile, a tapestry of fleeting connections that could unravel without warning. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the rear of the plane, a cacophony that silenced the chaos around us. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, and like a dark veil lifting momentarily, I caught sight of a fellow passenger, a young man known for his laughter just hours earlier, climbing over a seat, frantically motioning for us to move. His face was a mask of stark determination mixed with undeniable fear. Over here. The exit's blocked, but I can help clear it. His shout cut through the confusion, injecting adrenaline into my veins. I turned to the elderly woman, biting back anxiety as I whispered, "We have to go, now." The plane shuddered again, more violent this time, as smoke began to envelop the aisle. My eyes darted toward the nearest exit signs, everything around us becoming a blur of shadows and sounds, heartbeats drumming my own and each soul around me. With every ounce of will, I led the group forward, urging them toward the sound of the young man's voice. He was working feverishly, trying to pry an overhead compartment open to create an escape route amidst the chaos. Part of me feared that moving forward was blind hope wrapped in delusion, yet the flicker of determination ignited in the collective faces around me fueled the fire of resolve burning within. Then, as we reached him, he turned, eyes wide with urgency. "We have to hurry. The smoke is getting worse." Just as we piled near him, another shattering boom resonated from below. The floor shook violently, and an eruption of sparks shot up from beneath the plane, flooding the cabin with a burning light that erupted into flames. Panic surged anew as screams of fear heightened like a dreadful symphony. "No! No! We're almost there!" My voice rang out, desperate yet uncertain, as I felt the ground beneath us shifting. I grabbed the young woman who had earlier calmed herself beside me, dragging her with me. "Stay close, keep your head down." Just as I blinked, the cabin lights flickered ominously again, and the fire unfurled like a ravenous beast. There was no time, we had to move, or we'd be swallowed whole. As I looked back at the little girl, her father's face transforming from fear to a flash of fierce protectiveness, a sudden surge of hope broke through as I urged them forward, toward the voice that championed our escape. Then came the revelation: the exit door appeared directly ahead, but the young man was screaming, his voice lost in the commotion, desperately attempting to clear the final blockage. "I can't, there's something in the way. Move!" I shouted as adrenaline pulsed through me like fire, and without conscious thought, I shoved aside fear and doubt. Grabbing the nearest object, a jammed suitcase, I heaved it with everything I had, breaking the barrier between us and escape. The door gaped ahead like an open mouth, a portal beckoning to life beyond the turbulence. But just as we charged toward it, something crashed down, sending debris showering around us, and I felt an ice-cold fear grip my heart. "Get out!" The young man was shouting now, his fierce gaze locking with mine. "I'll hold it." Although the chaos around us swirled like a deafening storm, his bravery struck a chord within me. I hesitated, torn as adrenaline screamed for me to rush forward and abandon everything else behind. "Go!" His eyes burned with determination, and in that essence of courage, the realization loomed: he might not make it out at all. Life is often about sacrifices woven into the fabric of moments that leave lasting impact. And that decisive heartbeat, I knew our fates rested not only on surviving this horrific plunge but also on choosing kindness and connection amidst chaos. "I won't leave you behind," I cried, clenching my fists, hoping my voice could pierce through the pandemonium. But just as I reached back for him, the cabin erupted, fire speared through the gaps, and a piercing sound filled the air. In one final push, the young man's figure faded from sight, obscured by the curling smoke and flames. "Go! For all of us!" he screamed, his voice nearly swallowed by the chaos. Torn between loyalty and instinct, the moment stretched, fraught with weighty decisions. For an agonizing second, I stood paralyzed, heart racing, until the reality crushed in, and a wave of desperation surged. There was no more time. "Run!" I screamed, my voice breaking as I turned to the rest. They needed me, this family with a child, this elderly woman. I gripped the hands of the little girl and her father, urging them forward. "We can't look back." But deep inside, I wrestled with heartbreak and anguish, knowing that even though my body propelled us towards the light, my heart would forever remain tethered to the brave soul behind me, destined to be a memory amidst the flames. And as we stumbled into the blinding sun, the sounds of escape fading behind us, a new fear gripped me, an inexplicable heaviness that told me this was only the beginning. The world could shift and turn, and even as we escaped the wrath of the crashing plane, the truth lingered: we had traded one darkness for another. A glance over my shoulder revealed the shadow of the plane, billowing smoke, a ghost of what had been, but the memory of courage remained burned into my soul. I was still a nobody in the last row, but now I faced an insurmountable truth: somehow, I would have to confront the cost of our survival, and the echo of bravery in the hearts that endured. The ground felt unstable beneath my feet, the echoes of terror still rattling in my ears. We had made it out, but the cacophony of sirens, shouts, and the acrid odor of smoke blending with a sweet scent of adrenaline gnawed at my senses. My heart raced with the remnants of panic. Each thud resonated like a drumbeat of loss and of guilt. Around me, chaos unfolded. As the emergency crew rushed to aid the survivors, I grasped the little girl's small hand tightly, her father's grip on her other side a protective vice. "Stay close," I urged, my voice hoarse from the smoke. "Where's the man?" she whispered, eyes searching me with terror, too innocent to comprehend the finality of his sacrifice. For a fleeting moment, my heart clenched, wanting to shield her from the truth. But what could I say? That he was brave? That he had chosen to stand against the flames so we could escape? Or perhaps that his act of defiance would stay etched in my soul forever, a beacon against the shadows? "Let us get you to safety, honey," her father said, whispering soothing words into her tangled hair. But he, too, trembled beneath the weight of dread. I could see the guilt etched in furrows upon his brow, the burden of survival weighing heavily upon him. As paramedics ushered us toward a safe zone, I felt a gentle hand on my shoulder, a gesture piercing the veil of despair wrapping around me. It was the flight attendant, her hair slightly singed, face streaked with soot but eyes alight with fierce compassion. "Are you all right? You were incredible back there." Her voice was a balm amidst the chaos, but I could only shake my head, the enormity of the moments ticking through my mind like a reel of film spinning erratically. "Incredible," I choked out, the words teetering on the edge of unbearable doubt. "I couldn't save everyone." "I know," she interjected, gripping my shoulders with urgent intensity. "You saved many, and in doing so, you ignited a fire of bravery for others to follow. You are not just a nobody. You." But before she could finish, a surge of voices swept over us. "Where are the others?" A frantic man cut through the crowd, searching faces in desperation. "Did anyone see?" I felt my knees buckle as reality struck anew. The young man, his face flashed before my eyes again, mixing with the memories of terror. I could hear his voice still, commanding, pleading, asking us to keep moving. "We shouldn't be here. There might be others still inside." The realization slammed into me like a freight train, reverberating through the remnants of adrenaline still coursing in my veins. Glancing around, I watched paramedics working tirelessly, but the knot in my gut twisted tighter, the urgency aflame again. "We have to go back," I blurted, the words bursting forth as I struggled against the tide of chaos. The flight attendant merely blinked at me, her face a mix of confusion and concern. "There are no more safe passages," she replied, eyes darting toward the defunct plane, now a mound of twisted metal and smoke. "The man who helped us, he is still in there. We have to find him." I pushed through the crowd, desperate to break from them, knowing that each heartbeat without action felt like betrayal. Muffled screams seemed to echo in my head. Were they inside? Were they trapped? The scenes of their faces, the fear mirrored in their eyes, entangled with the vibrant memory of the young man who had given his all. "Please," I implored, spinning back toward the flight attendant. "If we can just find a way. We can't leave anyone behind. Not now. Not him." I could see her hesitation, the flicker of longing reflected in her gaze, but the steel resolve anchored her feet to the ground. "It's too dangerous," she exclaimed. "We need to wait for the fire department. You can't go back." And in that moment, I felt tethered. Pathetic, trapped in the body of someone who had almost fled the flames. Was that what survival meant? To move on while others remained behind? The heat of shame clawed at my throat, tightening until I could barely breathe, but then, a sudden warmth enveloped me, a glimmer of hope amidst the shadows. The little girl's finger squeezed mine tighter. "Please," she said, her voice small yet firm, "we can't leave him. He was brave." Her innocent bravery erupted within me, stoking the smoldering embers of courage. Before I could second-guess myself, a surge of determination blazed through my veins. "We need a team," I declared. Get me someone who can help search. I can't let it end like this. The flight attendant's face shifted into a mask of understanding, and I saw a flicker of kinship rising in her eyes. I'll get back up, she said, urgency igniting her movements. Stay here with them. No, I'm going with you, I insisted as fire-kind flames crackled in the distance. If I'm going to do something, I'm doing it now. We hurried toward the remnants of the plane, the lingering scent of burnt metal and despair infiltrating our lungs. I glanced back at the family, their fear intermingled with hope, and my heart trembled. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it. But just as we approached the wreckage, layers of black smoke coiled around us like grasping hands, and shadows danced in the stench of charred wreckage. Then through the billowing fog, I heard a shout, an echo of a voice calling out, but it wasn't the man's. It was another familiar pitch. Dad! Dad! A child's voice cut through the haze, sharp and desperate that I froze, the blood draining from my face, time exhibiting a cruel irony. An urgent realization crashed over me, another child perhaps trapped in the inferno, lost to the flames. This wasn't just about the man anymore, it was about saving innocent lives, one desperate call reverberating amidst the chaos. Is anyone with you? I screamed into the smoke, desperately scanning for movement. We need to get you out. Can anyone hear me? The tremor of another voice answered, cracking under pressure. I'm here. I'm stuck. Heart racing, I turned to the flight attendant, who was already on her radio, summoning help. But something in me snapped as I heard that terrified cry, and with fear subverted by resolve, I stepped closer to the wreckage, determination propelling me forth. Whatever awaited, I would confront it head-on. I was no longer just a nobody, I was a symbol of survival thrumming within every heartbeat. And as I moved toward the fire, I could sense the truth, the weight of bravery deepening under every moment of uncertainty. Just hold on. I shouted, feeling both fear and fierce conviction battle within. We're coming. With each step forward, new shadows loomed, weaving a tapestry of hope and despair inextricably linked, beautifully frightening. What awaited me deeper within the wreckage, I couldn't yet comprehend, but the greater the darkness loomed, the brighter the call for courage shone. And my heart surged, ready to face whatever shadow lingered there, yearning for the light. The roar of flames crackled just ahead, a ferocious reminder of the danger that loomed within the wreckage. My heart raced as I stepped unflinchingly towards the remnants of the plane, its twisted metal a graveyard of forsaken dreams. The child's cries reverberated in my ears, mingling with the fading sirens in the distance, each voice a haunting call that twisted my gut. Just stay calm. We're coming. I shouted, my own voice a thin veil against the relentless heat pressing down on us. The flight attendant sprinted ahead, braving the smoke to reach the source of the desperate pleas. I followed close behind, the adrenaline pushing me to take risks a few hours ago I would have deemed reckless. As I entered the shaded maw of charred metal, the acrid smell of soot burned in my throat, but there was little time to dwell on discomfort. There was a child somewhere in this hellscape, their dread palpable in the air, and I had to reach them. I can't see you. I called, the darkness wrapped around me like a suffocating blanket. Can you hear me? Help. I can't move. Came the pained response, a tremor lacing the child's voice. The sound twisted like a blade in my heart. Peering deeper, I swatted away pieces of debris to reveal an entrance through the wreckage. The flight attendant's flashlight beamed brightly, illuminating a small figure pinned beneath a section of the overhead compartment. Tears streamed down their dirty face, the look of panic painting their features as they fought against the tight enclosure. Don't worry, I'm here. I called out more confident than I felt, crawling slowly toward the child, keeping my eyes trained on that terrified gaze. What's your name? Lily. She cried, her voice choked with fear, and I felt a surge of warmth envelop me in that moment, a connection orbited by impending dread. Lily, just hold on. I'm going to get you out, I promised, my hands trembling as I pushed aside jagged metal and shards of glass. Each moment stretched to infinity, and with every pull, I felt the weight of hope press against my chest, a stark contrast to the oppressive uncertainty that threatened to consume us both. "Where's my dad?" she whimpered, eyes darting about as we made eye contact, and the knowledge cut deep. I could not give assurances I was unsure about, but in her gaze, I saw a flicker of trust that was both a burden and a blessing. I don't know, but we're going to find him," I replied, gritting my teeth as I tried to shift the heavy wreckage pinning her down. "You have to be brave for him, okay?" The light of my resolve seemed to soften her fear for just a moment. I pushed harder, my muscles screaming in protest until at last, a groan of metal shifted and gave way. "Lily!" I breathed, heart pounding as I tugged her free, her small frame collapsing into my waiting arms. "I've got you." She trembled but held on to me tightly, seeking solace in a stranger's embrace, yet if fate held its breath, I sensed the shadows tightening around me. Where was the father? What horrors lay still smoldering in the wreckage that I hadn't yet searched? "Where do we go?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper, and I felt a rush of determination swell within. "To safety," I answered, scooping her closer as I glanced around. "But we need to find your dad first. Can you tell me where he was?" She nodded, gaze uncertain as we inched through the debris. "He was sitting up front, by the window. I don't know how far that is now," she murmured, smaller than I had expected, the very width of her shoulders carrying the weight of the unknown. "Stay close to me, okay?" "Just behind me," I instructed, powered by an insatiable need to protect this innocent soul while battling the shadows of what might already have been lost. Together we maneuvered through the tangled ruins, but our progress was slow, each calculated step accompanied by a cacophony of silence that hung heavy above us. A pang of regret punctured my resolve as I realized how far we had ventured into the heart of despair, time slipping from our fingers like grains of sand. As we turned a final corner, I froze, dread filling the void within me. There, encased in twisted metal that had become starkly familiar, lay the lifeless figure of a man near the cockpit. The flicker of hope I had clung to extinguished with the arrival of grim reality. "Is that him?" Lily whispered, horror weaving through her voice that I didn't dare look away, the fresh pain igniting an anguished knot in my throat. "No, no, no," I breathed, denying the truth bursting forth. Surely it couldn't end this way. The world had already lost too much, how could it possibly let us bear another loss? At that moment, a last cry echoed through the chaos, slicing through the shadows. "Lily!" An eruption of light swept into the dark as figures appeared in the distance. Firefighters, clad in gear ignited in the name of hope, surged forth like guardian angels descending from the heavens. "Stay here," I commanded, placing Lily behind a beam of safety, fear clawing at my heart that I rushed towards the man lying still, mind racing as I gauged every pulsation of dread threading through me. "Can someone help? We need to get him out." My hands shook as I reached for the man, but the devices for rescue came with an urgency that rendered me powerless. From behind me, I heard a faint whisper. "My dad." The quiet desperation fueled my determination once again. The firefighter pushed forward, assessing the wreckage swift and methodical. Each piece of metal that crumbled beneath his hands echoed like a thunderous heartbeat, a convergence between hope and despair playing its final act. I could feel the shock sliding through the crowd, the weight of what they might find looming over us all like a specter waiting to reveal its form. "Don't leave us," I shouted, not caring if the panic seeped through my desperation, eclipsing reason as I clung to the last moments before truth shattered everything in sight. And then, the metallic groan of hopelessness clawing from the wreck revealed a heart-stopping truth: the man was lifting, advancing in pieces toward the light. But as they cautiously pulled, the hazy silhouettes lessening in the distance, a new voice echoed from the wreckage, grim and unyielding. "Help! Someone, anyone! Don't leave us!" A gasp rippled through the crowd, and reality crashed down. There was another child, another soul that might linger in this living nightmare, a piercing truth that fractured the fragile glass of hope I had so carefully crafted. The flame of hope, now ensnared in the webs of unforeseen tragedy, flickered uneasily. Shadows loomed larger, casting glimmers of doubt as whispers of survival grew dim. I was no longer just one heartbeat among thousands, I had become a flag waving in the dark, but as I looked back at Lily, clutching her little hands together with trust crackling against uncertainty, I realized that in this morphing landscape of chaos, the fight wasn't just mine anymore, it was for every tender soul still captive to the flames, and so, with heart pounding, hope ignited afresh in my chest. We would face this darkness together, battling onward to uncover the truths still hidden the flames might consume, but the light of resilience burned brighter than before. I thought I had braced myself for the worst, but nothing could prepare me for the haunting echo of that voice, a plea that slipped through the wreckage like a chilling wind, mingling with the acrid smoke swirling around us. "Someone, please. We can't breathe." The panic was palpable, intertwining itself with Lily's tightening grip on my arm. Her innocent eyes, once filled with hope and trust, now mirrored the fear that surged with every unanswered cry from the depths of the wreckage. My heart sank as I glanced back toward the firefighters, who had turned their attention to the voice that called out from beneath the twisted metal. "One moment." One of them shouted, rallying his team. They understood the gravity of the situation, their swift movement sparked a sense of urgency in me. "Stay close," I urged Lily, leading her deeper into the haze, scanning the debris that loomed like a labyrinth of despair. The fiery echoes outside were distant now, replaced by the coughs and cries of those trapped within our prison, a place that had once held laughter, chatter, and dreams. Is it another kid, like me?" Lily's voice trembled, and I knelt to meet her gaze, swallowing the lump that had nestled itself in my throat. Yes, it is," I replied, searching for the courage that felt so elusive in the face of such heartbreak. "We have to make sure they get out, too." Together, we stumbled through the charred remains, each movement laden with the weight of lost hopes. I felt the pressure of my own insecurities gnawing at me, whispering doubts louder than the cries of those still entangled in the wreckage. But there was little time to entertain self-pity. Looking at Lily's pale face ignited a flicker of determination that I clung to desperately. "We have to hurry," I shouted over the din, the urgency in my voice mingling with the chaos that surrounded us. The thought of leaving another soul behind felt unbearable, each embrace offered me new strength, but I couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away like sand through my fingers. As we turned another corner, the smoke thickened, swirling around us like a sentient being. I squinted, desperately trying to pick out any silhouette that might guide us to the lost child. And then, with a heart-stopping jolt, I saw movement beneath a heavy beam, the outline of tiny limbs thrashing helplessly. "Hold on," I called out, charging toward the message of pain that clung to the air like an anchor. I could barely discern the child's face, smudged with dirt and tears, straining against the wreckage that confined them. "I'm coming." The beam loomed before me, merciless and heavy, but I had no choice. I had to try. "Lily, stay back," I grunted, my hands digging into the rubble as I braced myself against the cold metal, trying to channel every ounce of strength I possessed. "Please. I can't breathe." A fragile voice cried out from beneath, and a cold jolt surged through my veins. Each rustle of debris echoed a reminder of vulnerability. "Just hold on. Someone will come for you," I called out, desperation lacing my tone as my muscles ached. I pushed harder, the struggle igniting a flicker of hope within me, one that urged me onward. Lily stood beside me, her small hands eager to help. "I can push," she shouted, and I could see the bright spark of bravery bouncing off her fragile shoulders, her spirit undeterred by the chaos that surrounded us. "I can do it." "All right, together," I encouraged, placing my hands alongside hers as we heaved against the beam, our resolve intertwining like fragile cords of strength. It was a bittersweet reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we could find solidarity. With one final push, the beam shifted, a fleeting moment that breathed life into our hopes. The mystery child writhed free, scrambling toward the sliver of light shining from the aperture we had created. "We found you," I exclaimed, relief flooding my senses as I pulled the child closer, a boy no older than Lily, his cheeks streaked with soot and tears. I thought I was going to be alone." He sobbed, burying his head against my shoulder, and I held him tightly, drawing on the warmth of human connection, the resistance against despair that flickered like the flames around us. Not anymore. We're here. I promised, feeling the weight of devastation ripple through me as I scanned for risks around us. Let us get you both out of here. But just as the words left my lips, another tremor quaked through the ground beneath us, a rumble that echoed like thunder. I turned to see a fresh plume of smoke erupting just beyond our haven of light, a stark reminder that the danger that encapsulated us was far from over. Run! I shouted, herding both children forward as I gripped their small hands. Together we stumbled through the ruins, hearts pounding and breaths shallow, knowing that fear coursed through our veins but never waned the light that flickered against the engulfing dark. Where do we go? Lily gasped, glancing backward, and panic twisted like a knife in my chest. My heart screamed for clarity, yet the path forward was scattered with confusion and uncertainty. We have to trust each other. I urged them, reflecting the last glimmer of resolve that still burned against the fading light. Keep moving. But as we navigated deeper into the wreckage, a new voice followed, one that called from the shadows, soaked in unreality. Help, I'm still here. I can't move, please someone help. The realization struck me like a hammer against glass. There was yet another child, another chance for salvation layered beneath the debris. A chilling breeze flowed through the remnants, tugging at my resolve and testing the very foundations of my ability to protect the innocent souls now intertwined in this harrowing journey, and yet, as I turned to face the unknown, a haunting question throbbed within me: how many more lives had the chaos claimed? Courage began to flicker uncertainly, threatening to dim beneath the burden of unanswerable truths that I and the creasing shadows, we stood, waiting for the next call, each heartbeat tethered to a single question: was our bravery enough to pierce through the darkness, or would we succumb to the flames that threatened to consume us all? The smoke swirled like a tempest around us, clinging to my skin and muddling my thoughts, drowning out the cries that filled the air. With the two children clinging to my side, I felt every heartbeat as if it were a time bomb, counting down the moments before disaster struck again. The shadows of the wreckage loomed ominously, whispering of despair while I battled the internal war brewing within me, an overwhelming urge to flee or to stand firm in the face of impossible odds. We can't just leave, I heard myself say, almost reflexively. The weight of the responsibility felt like chains wrapped around my heart. How could I turn away from a voice that cried out desperately for another chance? We need to find them. Lily's grip tightened on my hand, fear radiating from her small frame, and it took every ounce of willpower to push back against the tide of panic that threatened to engulf us. The boy, a matchstick of a child with ash-gray skin and wide frightened eyes, was swamped with uncertainty. But, what if it's too late? He whispered, his voice trembling. That I knelt to face him, willing strength to surge through my own veins to inspire hope in him. It's not too late, I insisted, cupping his face between my hands. We've already saved one life. We can save another. But we have to be brave together. The boy paused, his fear visibly morphing into determination. The spark of courage ignited in the depths of his doe-like eyes. Together, he echoed, and the resonance of that single word poured warmth into my soul. I turned to Lily, who took a deep breath, her small shoulders squaring against the cascade of uncertainty. Okay. Her voice wavered, unsteady but determined. Let us do it. With renewed determination, we pivoted toward the endless whispering shadows, ears attuned to the cries reverberating through the wreckage. And then, through the cacophony, I heard it again, the weak, spindly call. Help. I'm trapped. Please, somebody, all right? I urged, channeling the fiery flicker of hope that surged through all of us. Stay close. We began to make our way toward the voice, maneuvering through the jagged remains of our surroundings, the sharp corners of steel seeming to draw blood with each twitch of our limbs. Yet, rather than succumb to despair, I felt an extraordinary surge of affection for these two brave souls beside me. They were children, yes, but within them burned a flame as vibrant as any adult's. Suddenly, we weren't just three victims of circumstance, we formed a coalition of hope. Keep calling. I encouraged, as the original voice began to wane. We're coming. Lily and the boy echoed their own reassurance, hang on. We're right here. And in that moment, the wreckage trembled with a sympathy that almost seemed to respond to our words, but just as I thought we had conquered the labyrinth, an ominous sound invaded our small circle of comfort, a rumbling beneath the earth. Suddenly, the ground shook like a wild animal, contorting as if it were alive. I turned back in alarm, the children instinctively pressed against me, wide eyes reflecting the horror of what was to come. Run! I yelled. We need to get to safety. We darted forward, but as we did, a near, blinding flash erupted from a ruptured gas line. The roar engulfed us, the flames licking hungrily at the debris, the heat blooming against our faces. The ground beneath us cracked, and in that moment of chaos, everything shifted. In the frenzy, Lily stumbled, lost her footing, and cried out as she flailed, nearly slipping through my grasp. No! I shouted, my heart imploding with terror as I warred between reaching for her or clearing the path ahead. In that split second, as I reached for her, I felt the ground begin to give way beneath my feet, a treacherous fissure sprawling across the debris. I yanked Lily back, catching her just as her fingers skimmed the edge of oblivion, but I felt the boy slip through my other hand. Help me! He screeched, panic causing his voice to thin into a silent scream. Hold on. I want to let you go. My heart tore as I glanced back, but the boy was already teetering dangerously close to the crevice. My own voice rang with desperation as I reached for him, feeling the distance stretch unbearably between us, my legs nearing paralysis as the ground crumbled around me. Please, hold on. Just when I thought time itself had frozen, a flash of light moved above, firefighters breaking through, a silhouette in the embers. We're here. A voice bellowed, cutting through the chaos. Get behind me. The boy's eyes locked onto mine, hope flickering as hands reached into the fray, and just as quickly as it came, another surge of fear gripped my heart. What if help arrived too late for one of us? What if there were more survivors, more children wrestling against the flames? I fought internally, the instinct to flee at war with the need for rescue. Everything trembled, the ruins around us groaning as the shadows seemed to swallow hope anew. And yet, somewhere deep down, there had to be a way to beat this fate. I was afraid, yes, terrified of what lay ahead, but as I grasped the trembling hand of the boy, entwined with Lily at my side, a growing flame started to forge. An unspoken bond knit between us, a promise that we would not abandon one another, but even amidst our collective bravery, a new voice echoed through the darkness, stirring a shadow of doubt. Help! A different voice rose, more fragile than the rest. I'm here too. At that moment, a chilling sense of dread filled the air. How many lives hung in the balance? The walls were closing in, and our time was ticking away, the price for bravery slowly revealing itself to be more than I could ever envision. Determined, I steeled myself against the noise, desperate to take action but paralyzed by fear. And as I looked at the children beside me, a single thought surged: we were not just survivors now, we were warriors on the edge of an abyss, and we might just need to gamble everything to find our way back from it. As we braced ourselves against the rumble of the world falling apart around us, everything slowed, time unfurling like a tattered flag in the wind. The flickering flames cast surreal shadows on our faces, illuminating the raw truth in those innocent eyes. I could not let any more children slip away, not when the echoes of their cries reverberated through my heart like a haunting melody. Help! The fragile voice rang out again, thin like a whisper on the edge of despair. It tapped into a depth of fear I had never known, rattling against my resolve. I'm trapped here. Someone, please. That voice, it's coming from right there. I gestured toward a cluster of twisted metal beams, my voice finding strength in the urgency that coursed through me. Stay close. I instructed Lily and the boy, their terrified nods pushing me forward. I darted ahead, my heart racing, adrenaline sharpening my senses as I felt the intensity of this moment settle over us like a thick fog. Keep calling. I urged. We'll get to you, I promise. Help. I can't. The voice trembled, desperation cloaked in despair, injecting the air with dread. Crouching low, I could see the outline of a small figure pinned beneath the wreckage, a young girl, her hair splayed around her head like a halo, eyes glistening with tears. My breath hitched at the sight. She looked no older than 6. "We're going to get you out. I won't leave you," I shouted, hoping to fortify both her and myself. "Just hold on." I rushed to the twisted beams, grappling with their weight, but they felt impossibly heavy, as if they were intertwined with the sorrow that burdened the world. I could hear Lily and the boy's breathing quicken behind me, each huff carrying life, their wills woven into the very fabric of hope I sought to grasp. A surprising squeeze wrapped itself around my heart, a warm reminder that I was not alone in this battle. "We can help," Lily called out, her voice trembling but anchored with resolve. I felt her small hand on my shoulder, and it summoned the strength I desperately needed. "Let us pull together, then," I gasped, nodding to the children as they worked beside me. Each ounce of weight shifted like a slowly crumbling wall, the metal creaking ominously. "Just a bit more. We're right here." In a united effort, the 3 of us heaved against the wreckage. It felt like pushing against the tide, the world shuddered violently, but we pressed forward, drawing courage from the very desperation that surrounded us. Finally, at a crack of breaking earth and heaving metal, the girl burst into view, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and relief. "Thank you," she sobbed, and as I grasped her hand, a rush of warmth flooded through me. Together, we began to pull her free, inch by inch, until she stumbled into our embrace, but just as I felt the weight lift, the landscape shifted again beneath us. Panic clawed at my throat as the ground lurched, the flames snaking closer, feeding off the debris surrounding us. "Get her back," I shouted to the children, giving the girl a gentle shove first before I turned to face the oncoming threat. The cries for help were lurking all around us now. More voices filled my ears, each one puncturing through the thin veil of our temporary victory and reminding me of what we still had left to lose. "Right here. We're coming," we yelled, but the ground began to fracture around us, an unruly beast wanting to consume us whole. Suddenly, a hand reached out through the heat, a firefighter emerging from the flames with urgency ingrained in his features. "This way. Quickly," he bellowed. "You need to run. The whole area is unstable." "No. There's more," I shouted, desperation crashing against reality. "We can't leave them." The firefighter's eyes narrowed. "You can't save everyone. You need to go. Now." The words cut through my heart like shards of glass. For a moment, time froze, crystallizing the truth I was trying to deny. My pulse shot through the roof. Who could I save? What choices would I make in this fraught moment? Lily's anxious face was lit by both fear and trust, while the little girl clung to me, oblivious to the mother's anguish blooming inside me. "Let them go," I screamed into the swirling chaos, knowing full well the risks, yet knowing equally that we could be caught in an unforgiving fate. Amidst the disarray, I stole a glance at the flames advancing upon us, and a startling realization crashed over me. If we ran, if we left, how many others would join the lost? "Please." The whimpers spiraled around me, a dizzying echo that molded desperation into action. In that instant, I knew I had to fight against the current of fear. The drowning wave could not beckon me away from this rescue. "I won't leave anyone behind." My words spilled from my lips, fierce and defiant. With renewed tenacity, I stepped back into the maelstrom, creating a possibility where my heart battled despair. A determination roared louder than the flames that threatened to engulf us. But then, just as excitement bloomed in my chest, a deafening crack resounded above. I glanced up in horror as more of the debris began to fall. The firefighter shouted something I couldn't hear over the clamor. Flashes of light danced amidst the smoke, and I could see shadows lurking, a figure looming above us, unrecognizable yet bearing no kindness. "Run! Now!" The firefighter screamed again, and this time I couldn't ignore the urgency in his voice. An unthinkable choice lay before me. Two paths diverged, salvation or the haunting whispers of two more lives locked in the wreckage. As panic clawed at my mind, the choking realization surfaced like bile in my throat. I could save those I held, or I could reach deeper into that very darkness threatening to crush us. Together. Came the voice of the boy, rallying courage in me, the promise stitching our fates. But with that whisper from the broken world above, clarity shattered into shards of choices, and I stood on the edge of heartbreak, ready to answer the call to bravery or the silence of retreat. The choice I would make next. A gamble that would alter the fabric of our existence forever. As the shadows advanced, I would learn just how far I was willing to go to hold on to hope or watch it slip away, as the flames danced ever closer. I felt the suffocating heat wrapping around us like a shroud, cloaked in the echoes of frightened cries mingling with the crackling flames. Time stretched as I stood there, paralyzed between salvation and despair, the weight of made decisions crashing upon me like waves against jagged rocks. With every heartbeat, I realized something profound. Bravery isn't merely about the moments when we choose to stand and fight, it's also about acknowledging the moments when we have to run, to survive, to keep that flame of hope alive in a world riddled with darkness. Together. The boy's voice rang out again from beside me, and I felt an overwhelming surge of courage flow through me like electricity, igniting a fire that burned away the shackles of indecision. In that heartbeat, clarity struck me with a force so fierce that it shook the very foundation of my being. I knew, in the depths of my soul, that we were here for one purpose, to save the lives we could, to cling to those whom fate had intertwined with ours. Go, now! I shouted to the firefighter, determination thrumming in my voice. It was a voice that echoed my newfound resolve. We'll find them, we can't abandon anyone who might still be inside. Unexpectedly, a chorus of fervent agreement surged from behind me. Lily and the little girl beside me, wide-eyed and resilient, whispered, "Yes. We can't leave." Their unwavering faith bolstered my own. I felt a fierce protectiveness swell within me. I had stepped into a battlefield of humanity, a landscape where hope and despair could coexist, where strength could rise from vulnerability. Then we do this together. I declared, my voice rising above the chaos, urgency igniting our mission. We can't let fear dictate our fate. Let us save who we can. We began weaving through the precarious wreckage, lingering cries spurring us on despite the approaching inferno. The ground quaked beneath us, to and fro as smoke twisted around my senses. I took a deep breath, snatching the child and pulling Lily closer, feeling as though we were moving through some twisted purgatory, dangerously flirting with both hope and loss. Time felt inexplicably stretched, reality murky as I shouted through the chaos, "Is anyone still here? If you can hear us, please respond." In the dim light, the flicker of hope was a faint glow in the storm. We pressed onwards, rallying, searching among the shadows cast by the wreckage. Then, beneath the echoes of flames and cries, a soft but desperate voice rang out, fragile like glass. "Please, I can't get out. Help. Hang on, we're coming." I called back, a rush of determination surging anew. We rushed toward the source of the cry, determination propelling our every step, each heartbeat a tribute to resilience. A promising beam of light cut through the thickening haze, allowing our minds to imagine a path forward amid rapid breaths of despair. I knelt low, searching for the outline of another soul engulfed by fear. We're almost there. Just a little longer. A few hefty pulls on twisted metal and a tremor of raw exertion gave way, revealing a small figure, a boy, no more than 8, curled into a tight ball beneath the remains of the ceiling above him. We were so close, but my heart lurched, knowing we had to move with caution. "No, no, no!" he gasped, hazel eyes glistening with fright. "I can't move." He pressed himself deeper into the fragile ruins, choking back fear and anguish. I gently commanded, "We're going to get you out." The lingering sensation of time stretching further settled into a fine veil of urgency, and every pulse pushed me to act. "Lily, can you help? Remember what we practiced." She nodded furiously, determination painted across her face, a mirror of resilience that ignited the ember in my chest. Together, we pushed against the metal fragments, our bodies bracing against the wreckage. Keep pulling. Just one more surge. I shouted, focusing on the boy's fear, wanting to fix his anguish with every ounce of belief I could muster. Finally, with a final, overwhelming burst of determination, the weight shifted. The boy scooted from beneath the metal, free at last. "Thank you," he cried, pushing against me, tears streaming down his soot-stained cheeks, and the moment of connection sparked with a collective realization each life we saved lit the way for another. "Now, let us get out of here," I said fiercely, sensing the closer heat from the flames. We began to move again, desperate to reach a point of refuge, to mold hope in this darkness. Yet, just as we rounded a corner back toward the cabin, the world shifted again. A monstrous roar of air cracked through the walls of wreckage as another explosion shattered our fragile sanctuary. "Run!" The cry echoed through both my lips and the fog thickening the air around us. My heart pounded loudly in protest as the flames leaped hungrily toward us. I pulled the children close, our hands tethered together as we barreled forward amidst chaos. Adrenaline rushed in fierce waves, each step defiantly transforming into pure will. The world outside beckoned us with promises of survival, the smoke trailing behind like a ghost clutching at our heels, desperately trying to drag us back into despair. And then, there it was, the glow of hope, fire trucks miraculously emerging from the encroaching darkness, firefighters leaping into action, their faces masks of grim determination. "This way, this way." They beckoned, and in the frantic surge toward salvation, I could feel the flames lapping dangerously close, but just as we neared the safety of the exit, an anguished voice broke through the pandemonium we had narrowly escaped. "Help! We're still here." I froze, caught between the warm air of freedom and the harsh reality of those still trapped. The weight of choice lay heavy. "No, we can't leave anyone behind." I turned to the children. "Stay here. I'll be right back." Before they could protest, instinct propelled me back into the chaos, forged anew with a steely determination I hadn't realized resided within me. The fire blazed behind, but it was the ghost of those who remained unspoken that anchored me in that despair. I ran toward the calls, hearts screaming in unison. Every breath I took ignited a devotion to those who awaited our return, a flicker that shone through the wreckage, guiding me toward the cries of lost souls still fighting for connection within the ashes. The world outside desperately receded, molding a stark halo of hope around my conviction, and I dove back into the nightmare, driven not only by survival but by love for those who mattered most and for the lives we may lose if we didn't stand bravely against the flames. In that moment, amidst the remnants of anguish and terror, I became more than a nobody in the last row. I emerged as a beacon of possibility, a road untraveled, a spirit unyielding against the darkness. As new light broke on the horizon, I would carry that strength forever, forging any path to provide hope to those still lost in the dark. And in the final seconds of that harrowing night, the words punched through the smoke, transforming help into a promise that ignited our fervent desires, a pledge I would carry to the end of my days. Together, we will find each other. Together, we must survive.